Well, hello there. This is just a little tutorial on how I created my fan art piece, Ill Wind, which is a portrait study of Darla, character from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Angel the series. This is my original image, which was downloaded from the now defunct and sadly miscivilized James site. You can see that it's not a very big image. It's 688 by 384 pixels, 72 pixels per inch. It is at the 16:9 ratio that I do like to use when I create my wallpapers, and I'm just going to do the unforgivable thing of just increasing the size in using image size. Make sure you've ticked resample. I just leave it at automatic if I'm doing a one-step size increase like this, and say OK, and there you go, the image is immediately bigger. You can see that it's a little bit pixelated, it's a little bit fuzzy because you're not really supposed to do that. So I'm going to take it into camera raw. I like the temperature, so I'm not really going to change that very much, and I'm just going to hit auto here. And it's just a bit too bright for me, so I'm just going to bring the auto back just a tad. Just might knock around with that a bit. It's not too bad, a bit more clarity because I want that nice and sharp, because I'm going to make a painted effect out of this. And I maybe kick the vibrance because I want to get some nice colour coming through from the background. Straight over to noise reduction, where I'm going to up my noise slider quite a bit. Leave the detail where it is. I'm going to go back up to sharpening and bring that up a bit as well. Probably kick up the radius to around 2, so I'm getting quite a bit of sharpening coming in here again. And if I press Alt as I move the mask, you can see there's quite a lot of noise on that image, so I'm just going to move masking up until her face is fairly smooth, and that's not too bad. So that's going to give me a good base to do my next step in. You can see how much it's lightened it over the original image. If I just even just go back to that, it's smoothed her out. It's picked up the highlights quite nicely. It's still got some nice tonal qualities happening in her skin. It's a really great way to give you a quick start, is to go and use camera raw filter for anything, but particularly when you're creating fan art. And here's one that I have prepared earlier. So this is my finished piece that I posted to the Live Journal community Naked Spike that I am a member of. Now, if I just hold down the Alt key and click on the bottom, I'll just get rid of that because that was me playing around. I forgot to actually turn the video on before, so I talked for a long time and wasn't videoing this. It's really annoying. So this is like take 25. So here it is, my image that as I've brought it in from Camera Raw. It's slightly different than the one I just did for you. So I obviously didn't. The sliders were slightly different. Here's the original again, just to show you the size it was, and I've now got a much nicer, bigger size. The first thing I want to do is create 2 layers, a copy of the base layer twice. And the easiest way to do that is just to highlight the layer you want to copy or duplicate and just drag it down over the new layer, let go, and you'll see it's got copy. I want 2 layers, so there, now that's my original, and then I've got 2 layers. The top one, I'm going to apply the high pass filter. So that's under filter other high pass. I just want to put it around 1 to 2, so 1.7. You can see I'm getting some nice lines in that image. Then I'm going to go to the blending mode. I'm going to change it to linear light, and that really, it's a nice texture. That's really brought some texture into my image to play with in the next stage. And then go up here and merge down. You can also just right click, and those things will a nice dialog box will come and merge down. So merge down, and this layer is the one that I'm now going to play with to get my painted effect. And I'm going to do that by using a filter. So filter under stylize, diffuse. It's very cool, this. So make sure you select anisotropic, that's it, okay? It will probably come up at normal, but just make sure you select anisotropic, and if you look at that, you can see her microphone changing. And because what it's doing is blurring out those pixels, but in a very special way. And just say okay. So we've begun, if I go up here to history, we've begun our painted effect. Just like that. So the next thing you want to do, I'm going to do this again, but first I'm going to rotate my image 90 degrees clockwise. You can go clockwise or anti-clockwise, but make sure, go the same way all the way. But I mean, you can also go backwards and forwards and get an entirely different look, because what we're doing is moving the pixels around. And when I go back to filter, stylize, diffuse, anisotropic, and apply again, it's applying it onto the pixels in a different way. So there we've once again smoothed out, blurred out our pixels, but in a different direction to the last time. And yes, you guessed it, image 90 degrees clockwise, and once again filter, stylize, diffuse, anisotropic, okay, image, rotate 90 degrees clockwise, filter, filter, you get in trouble when you push it too fast, anisotropic, and then one more rotation, and we're back where we started. And you can apply another one if you like, if you need to have you want some more painterly effect. But if I go up here into the history and just go find before I began all of these rotations, that's where I was, and that's where I am. And you can see how beautifully smooth her jowls are, and the lips, and the hair. And you can see that, you can really see the effect of this filter in the microphone, because it was very different. So if we go back to where's merge down, that's the diffuse filter. It's a really simple way to get an instant painterly effect. And of course here is one I prepared earlier. This is the one that after I had finished, after I had finished my 4 rotations and apply filters, I then turned it into a smart object. So you can do that, simply click on it, and if you're in the wrong place it won't do that. You can say convert to smart object. It will also do under filter, convert to smart object, under layer, convert to smart object. So convert your layer to a smart object, and then you are going to apply some smart filters. And the first one I applied is the surface blur. Set it to around 50 pixels radius and set the threshold to around 15. Then apply a smart sharpen and around 200% radius of 2, reduce noise 10, remove Gaussian blur, and I didn't play with shadows or highlights, that's just the default values. You can, of course, it's all subjective, and that's why you made this layer a smart layer as well, so that you could use smart filters and go back later and change them if you like, so that you can did I just do something then? I think I did. I just will change that because I don't want to edit the filter effect. Now I wanted to get back some of my underlying effects for her eyes and her mouth and her nose. So what I have done is added a mask to this whole layer. I could have used here, but I just wanted to, I used the overall layer and added a mask. Used a soft brush, foreground colour black, painted over the area that I wanted to show through from below. So to see that her nose, her eyes, the lashes, and some of her hair. And I reduced the mask to 54%. So that's full percent, so I'm really getting through, but I just wanted it to be a little less than I wanted more detail, through, and you can see that's what's happened. It's a lot clearer there. You can see that the shadows come up better, and that it's a lot sharper, her eyes. Now I have done another merge all layers, so that's Shift, Control, Alt and E are the shortcuts, and what that does, make copy of all the layers underneath. And I have applied another high pass filter. So filter, I didn't make it a smart object either, so I can't go back and show you exactly, but a filter other high pass, and I'll probably set this around 7 or 8 because I usually like around 7 to 8 for faces. And I'll just cancel it because I'm not changing it. Change blend node to soft light, left it at 100% opacity, and you can see that has sharpened the edges in her hair, and sharpened the edges, and that's what high pass does. It's sharpening edges and sharpened her mouth and her teeth, and just to get her features back in. I wanted to add some more sharpening, so I've actually used the sharpen tool here, which is this one over here, sharpen tool, and I use it on a new layer. Make sure you've got sample all layers ticked, and leave protect detail. The default setting for the sharpen tool is protect detail, 50% strength and normal. This case, that's exactly what I use, the defaults, but you can change your blend modes depending on what part of the image you're working on. And that looks like that. So I've sharpened her lips, her hair, and her eyes just a tad. Oh no, sorry. Okay, the next one I've added is a curves layer as a dodge. So just pull the line up just a bit above your center line, and I'll just turn off that mask for a minute. So that's how bright I've pulled that up. Just put the mask back on. Fill your mask with black, so that's Control I, fill it with black. Take a soft brush, foreground color white, and reduce the flow to around 20%. And then start brushing in your mask. Make sure your mask is highlighted. Start brushing in your mask where you want the highlights to show. And that's dodging. And I didn't change it to dodge the layer name. So that's dodging. It's a bit hard. Oh, sorry. That's where I've dodged. I've actually come back after I put the text in. All this over here is actually for the text, which at the moment is turned off as well. And or behind the text, I dodged behind the text so that I could get the background a particular colour that I wanted it to be. Okay, that's a fractal. Fractals are made with a fractal generator. It's very hard to, that's it there. It's just a nice pattern colour that you put certain settings in and up it comes. And they're great for overlays and underlays. In this case, it's actually an underlay for the text. And this is the first line of text. If I go to T, it's Clipper Script Regular, which is, I think, Amon's Grubic one I got in a package I bought from him, and it's really quite pretty. I quite like it. What I've done with it, because to fit in with the theme, Ill Wind, I've actually gone up to effects and added a wave, and that's probably from the last time. I don't use it all that a lot. So a 15% horizontal wave. And what the next thing I've done is highlighted parts. It was just typed in one go, so there's only one line of type. This is the copy. There was one line of type, which I just put on different lines. But I've gone back. You just highlight one line, open up your character panel, which is one of the tools that you'll find under Windows if you don't have it in your toolbar. I always have it in my toolbar because I play with my text a lot. You highlight the text and you can change the size. So this was originally 48 and I've just come in here, and 72 is as far as it goes, but you can actually type in, if I wanted to make it 127, I could make it 127 or 236. So highlight the text and change it and say yes, that's cool. And then the next one I've left at 48 and 48, and then the next one I've changed to 60 and 60 and I think that one too, yes, and then 48, 60, 48. Just gives a bit of an interesting look to your text, and that's how you can change. Instead of having to create multiple layers of text, you just make one layer and just highlight the bits. You can change a letter. You know, if I wanted to make that so really big, I could just highlight. So come in here and type in, say 120. And there you go. It's made it nice and big. Say yes. And it just adds interest to your text. It's such a cool thing. Copied that. I'll just go back to this one. I applied the layer effects, bevel and emboss, a colour overlay, and which blue, because I wanted a bit of blue into the match the background, and a pattern overlay. So again, it was a blue pattern with just a little bit of texture in it, which just is why there's a bit of change to the colour. It's given me a gradated look, which is really quite nice, I thought. And I made a copy of this layer, brought it to the bottom, and I did have a lot of things. I tried various different things and I didn't get rid of them. You can actually get rid of them, but what I did want was an outer glow, which was white, set to colour dodge 57%, and a drop shadow at 90%, and that just the distance, not a very big drop shadow. And then what I did was reduce the opacity of this layer because I just wanted just a subtleness in it. So, and also you can see, maybe it's a bit too subtle to see, but I've actually got, because the letters are there, it gives me some more of that wind-blown effect, which is fitting my theme, that, you know, the letters are not, they're sort of blowing away in the wind, the shadow, which I thought was pretty cool. A brightness layer, 23 and -7 for contrast. You can see it just really picks Dala up again, and also a little bit across the text from this light up in the corner that came from the original image. And so I've just used a black brush to mask out where I don't want it to show. So I don't want it to show that much on the background. I want the background to be dull in comparison to Dala, because I want her to stand out from it. A little more sharpening. I'd come up, now that I've added more light, I want just the sharpen tool again, default settings, make sure sample all layers. But I always put it on a separate layer, because if I don't like it, I can just take it away. You can see it's not a great deal, it's very subtle. One of the things the sharpen tool does is it will make your dark colours darker, you know, it will bring up your colours. It's like using a saturation tool. And I just used it on her. I was really going just for her lashes and her brows. And this one is now a burn tool. So I'm using the curves as a burn filter. In other words, I've pulled the line down below the middle line to go into the darker colours to add some shading. Once again, invert your mask so that it's filled with black. Use a soft brush, foreground colour white, and with burning, I usually work around 12 to 15% because it's quite strong, and I just use it on her cheeks where I wanted shadows to give some contrast, because it's the contrast that gives you the shape of the face. So a bit down the nose and the eyes, just to bring up that colour, a bit on the lips to imitate lip liner, and also just to bring out the colour of the lips, a bit of under the jaw to highlight that. So you can see it clicking it on and off, the amount of change that it does, and that's the actual filter, the mask. And I left the mask at 100%, and that line is normal and 100%. Now here's a really neat trick I like to use, a black to white gradient map. And it's just the default one that comes with Photoshop. And set it to soft light. Soft light's such a great thing just because it gives you a soft light. And I reduce the opacity to 32%, and what it's doing is it's acting like a contrast tool. It's a contrast layer. It's bringing up my lights, and it's increasing some of the darker shadows so that it gives me a nice pop to Darla, which is what I want. I want her out of the background. This layer is Global Light. It was just a new layer. I took a brush with white paint, set it to overlay, paint your light in, and the light I've painted in came across there. It was quite a big wide brush. Then reduce the opacity to 27%, just to give a light right across her body and her face. And I'll just go to history and say undo that, because I don't want to change any of those things. This is a neat trick just to get the details. So when you notice when I click that on, that details came up quite nicely on Darla, and also in my blowing the wind text. And what this is another copy merge layer. So I've just now Control-Alt-Delete copy merged a new layer of everything below. Gone to Filter, Stylize, Find Edges, and that doesn't look very effective, but if it's on normal, it certainly does. If I just increase the opacity, this is what you get. It's literally finding the edges in your image and highlighting them for you. I'll just take that away. Just take that away. So I'm just going to go back here, playing with things that I shouldn't. So we're back here. Turn that one back on, and it's at difference, and it used to be 32%, so I'll just change that. This is what happens when you play with things after the fact, isn't it? You change things and you forget to put them back, and it just gives you that nice, easy little effect. And it's adding to that painted effect. It's giving you some edge to your brush strokes, and it's a really great tool. So copy merge, filter, find edges, then invert it, Control-I, invert your layer, and then just play with the blend modes, difference, exclusion, subtract, divide. I use any one of those, occasionally hard mix. In this instance, difference gave me the best outlook, and then reduce the opacity until it's where you like it. And it's a great thing. And then add a mask, and you can brush it away from where you want it to be. So I've brushed it away from the text a little, so that it's still a little bit affecting it, but not a lot. And you can see it, so I can continue with that windy look there. Oh, that's my tag, we don't care about that. Now this buttery blue, this is actually, you make a copy merge 3 times of all of that you've got so far. I didn't copy merge my text, I'll put that there later. I just wanted it blurred. So I didn't make these a smart layer, sorry, but what it is, the first layer, set it to multiply 25%, filter Gaussian blur, so blur, Gaussian blur, and set it at 15%. You can actually type that in if you want, instead of playing around with this. So set it at 15%, then create another, the next layer is change it to soft light and 40% and 50% Gaussian blur, then screen 25% and 25% Gaussian blur. There's also a mask with each one in case you wanted to mask away any one of those layers, but pop it into a group and then put a mask with the group, and you can mask out the entire effect, which is what I've done here for Darla. I've masked Darla out because I don't want her face to be blurred. I was really looking for the background to be blurred, and just a little bit of blurring over the writing as well, because it's got to have that wind blown look about it. And also I put my tag underneath it because I wanted that a little bit blurred as well. The blur, paint in with black and reduce the opacity to 71% for the whole mask. And the final layer is another curves layer. So I'm just increasing the light just a little bit, adding some more light to Dala, and I'm masking it out from the background. So I've wanted it on the writing, I wanted it on the blue up there, that nice sharp blue, but I didn't want it on the background. So using a soft brush and foreground colour black, just paint it away from where you don't want the mask to be. And that's making Elwind. Thanks for watching.